Welcome to Raising the NSBAR. My name's Jeff Lasky. I am the CEO of this great organization, the North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors. I am beyond pleased to have mega producing agent, mega successful team leader, who also happens to be the president of the North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors, Kati Spaniak.
Hello.
Welcome, Kati.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking just a few minutes.
Sure.
I wanted to do that. This is more or less a little bit of a follow-up on what you were talking about at installation. And we fortunately have had a couple of months now to get things going, but I wanted to talk about that a bit. So we'll get started with right at the beginning of your installation speech. You made it a point to give a special thank you to Steve Hudson and to Brad Anderson. So let's start there about, what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great because when I came in, I kind of valued their perspective and opinions, and because they are both successful managing brokers on the North Shore. And I really have loved their style of leadership, which is definitely a little different than mine. And it was nice to watch both of them very deliberative in what they wanted to talk about and how they were able to bring consensus with the whole group. So for me, it was a real ability to understand a very effective way of leadership. And then Brad was great with NSBAR Cares. I love that he was able to initiate that. And Steve, we had a lot of great discussions where he was really wanting to understand some of the depths of some of the higher level realtor issues that we had. And it was just a very nice balance for me. So I'm really honored to be following in their footsteps.
One of the things I talk to my kids about is how you can be involved with different people who do things in an entirely different way, and yet it's just different ways to be successful.
Yeah.
And so I get exactly where you're coming from because, my experience is that, yes, you are a different leader than they are, and yet all three of you, and I also, when I started here, was Chris Stevens, talk about people that are very successful in leadership, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's cool. Now, also very important to you, though, right at the start of your speech, you wanted to talk about the people that volunteer for the association. And why did you think it was so important to specifically thank people for their time?
This is to give back to our association and to the industry is a really big deal. And I think it's important that there are people who are giving up their time and their energy, who really care and who go deep into the issues. Because there is a lot of really deep stuff that does need a lot of deliberation. The RPAC stuff, just the conversations about what's happening in our industry. And so by having these amazing volunteers who are spending their time and their energy in it, because not everybody's going to understand everything, it helps our industry and it helps us become better agents.
Yeah, and it's certainly true that there are people who this works for in terms of incorporating this into their professional lives, right? And there are people who choose not to.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
right?
totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then my favorite part of your speech was when you talked about me. No.
Sure.
But in the nature being, again, and when we say we're not really opposites so much as I think we're more complements.
Right.
Right? And I think that goes back to you've done a lot of work with DISC. You've done a lot of work with personality assessments, et cetera. So maybe talk for a minute about how you've determined or what's been revealed to you about our relationship, how we work together, and how we complement each other.
Yeah, so as you know, I'm a huge supporter of the DISC profile. I'm DISC certified, and it is understanding the DISC profile has changed my life, it's changed my business, and it changes how I am also as a leader. And it's shown me where I'm strong and where I'm not necessarily not strong, but where I know that I may fall down. And where I may fall down, you just happen to have those traits where you can kind of pick that up. I can sometimes be a little blunt and brash and may not always see the big picture of things and how it might come across. And you're very good at understanding that type of thing, to have that conversation with me. So we are not the exact same, but we complement each other in a lot of ways. And also it helps get things done. It gets things moving. So I can come up with my idea as a leader, and then you're going to be able to implement and take it through.
And that's what's been so helpful to me, is understanding who you are. And boy, how helpful it's been to me. It's an issue for associations to drive and get stuff done. And you're so helpful to me with that.
Oh, good.
And so I think it's been really great. So we're talking about who you are now, but before I go any further, I know I saw your mom at Installation, right?
My mom was there.
So let's talk about, let's go back in time for just a minute, because I did get a chance to talk to her for a couple of minutes now. Part of that was because we were locked out together before we were able to get in, so I did get a chance to know her a bit. So tell me about, your mom and the impact she's had on you.
Yeah, so my mom, I actually grew up in Northbrook and lived here my whole life, and my mom was a real estate agent starting in the 90s. And so I have followed her her career and watched her career. And, I think for my mom, being an agent, she was probably the first person who showed me that being an agent is also being an entrepreneur, which I didn't necessarily know. My mom has a very strong entrepreneurial traits, and that came through in her being a real estate agent. And so I really think that throughout my real estate career, it's been an amazing thing to be able to talk to her and collaborate with her. Even now, even though she's moved to Florida, and I still service her clients, but it's been great because I can still talk to her and we can pick it up in the same conversation and just have a wonderful conversation about real estate. And it was so wonderful that she flew up here just for this installation. It was really a neat, thing. Yeah, it was neat.
Sure she did. I mean, there's and it was a great celebration. And it was then that you revealed your theme for the year, which again, and we've carried not just for Installation, but for your entire year, this community rooted in collaboration. And so I think that's a little bit of the meat that we need to get into here, because I know that at the beginning, when you first started out in this industry, that wasn't necessarily how you felt about things. So what kind of changed your mind about, the importance of cooperating, working with other agents? It was a few years after I got into the industry, and I think that collaboration between agents was not something that was taught. It just was not, you learn how to write a contract, you learn how to negotiate a contract, but you don't learn about collaborating with other agents, especially with agents and other brokerages. So I that was sort of missing from my career in the beginning. And I had ended up changing brokerages a couple of times, but after I changed the first time, I received all of these Facebook friend requests from agents from all over the country. And it was my first indication about collaboration in an area that I had never had my eyes open to before. And it's not that the agents around here weren't collaborative at all, because they absolutely are. But it was just the idea that these agents were now my friends, my coworkers, my peers, no matter what brokerage they were at. It was almost like we were in a sorority together, all the way across the country. And so for me, that was my first eye-opening moment, where how much more fun it is collaborating with agents rather than feeling like you're by yourself. You don't know, and everybody's a competitor. So for me, it was like, wow, this is so much more fun to sell real estate. When I'm working with people, they call me and I'm talking to them on the phone. We have the same goals. We want the same things. And being able to build my relationship with them has just added a whole new angle and just a pillar to my career that I love. And that's really why I'm here as well. Now, and just to expand upon that a little bit, so it's kind of neat. Being an old man, that's the best word I can think of is neat, but that competitors, I say really hard competitors it doesn't have to be, beating each other up. It doesn't have to be, anything vicious about it. It just,
No.
you do everything that you're supposed to do responsibly for your clients, but that you're probably in fact getting a better result for them because of the working together with
Yeah,
other agents,
you
right?
know, and you can trust them, you're building rapport, you're building a relationship with them. And you know, sometimes how clients may say, well, do you trust that other agent? And I'll say, you know, I do. We have that type of relationship where, you know, that's what we've built over the years. And so if one of us broke that trust, it would be a difficult situation. And so I feel like because I'm becoming closer with these agents, we have better deals, we have better transactions, and our clients are happier too. So it's just it's great all the way around.
Yeah. Now, you've seen this though, like as a culture throughout the industry, right?
Yeah.
And there was a point in time, I remember in talking to you, that you were like, we need to change our mentality, and maybe I guess is the best way to put it, in the industry. Do you remember that moment, those moments in time?
Changing, you mean my mentality on it?
No, more like when you decided that the industry needs to have a different approach other than,
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes back to what I talked about in my speech a little bit, is about complaints against other agents. And, you know, I've had a couple complaints filed against me. And the first time I did, I was mortified. I was embarrassed, and you know, I thought, oh my gosh, somebody's filed an anonymous complaint against me. And what it was an email I had sent out to other agents, just telling them about a listing I had. However, it didn't have my email, or it didn't have my address, my brokerage address at the bottom of the email. Somebody took that and filed a complaint against me, and it came back. It was an anonymous complaint, and I thought, wow, I guess I did it. I mean, I forgot to put that, and I knew that, but my administrator sent it out and it just missed it. So I was like, okay, you know what? And I had to pay the fine. It was a $250 fine, and I just owned it. The second time was about a year later, and I had created an ad that I dropped off my brokerage logo. I had my team logo, but it dropped off my brokerage logo by accident. I didn't notice it. Somebody again filed an anonymous complaint. Clearly, my logo was not on there. And so now I'm like, all right, yeah, I got to pay this again. So now the price goes up to, I think it was $500. So then I got my third anonymous complaint. And it was because my brokerage name was not at the Chamber of Commerce, titled with my name. So it didn't say Kati Spaniak, EXP. And so somebody filed another anonymous complaint on that. And that was the point I thought, this is not okay for our industry. The first two I was sort of like, well, you know what, all right, I get it. But the third one was like, this can't go on like this. We can't do this to each other. You know, it was obviously a mistake. And so when I called the chamber, they immediately changed it. And I thought, gosh, would it have been so much better if that agent had either just called me or called my managing broker and said, hey, you know what? You need to put your brokerage name on there. But it truly seemed like it was meant to hurt me. And, you know, that's not how I think we as agents should be, because we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to work for our clients. And so I ended up fighting that one, and I lost. And I had to pay $2,000.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it was painful for me. And I think that what I didn't want to hide that. I didn't want to not tell people about it, because I want other people to know that they're in the same boat as me. You know, I'm getting anonymous complaints filed against me. Some are right, some are wrong. But you know, we as an industry need to change that culture. We need to say, what are we doing here for our clients? It's not about being competitors. And once we've opened that up, I think that we're even going to enjoy it more, have better relationships, and our clients are just going to be serviced better.
Yeah, so getting back to then the notion that, and there's a couple of things here that bug me, frankly. Yeah. But, you know, one thing is exactly what you're saying is, you see a mistake like that, why not just simply contact, you know, the other broker involved and say, hey, look, I've noticed this. I'm sure you didn't do it intentionally, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. And if the other person reacts belligerently or is like, well, I'm not fixing it, whatever it is,
Yeah.
then you always have the option to file a complaint. And then guess what? You don't have to do it anonymously
Right,
either.
exactly.
I think that's the other part about this that kind of bothers me is that, if you're interested in what's best for the industry, and in fact, we've brought this to
Yeah.
Illinois Realtors. We
We
brought
did.
it to their professional standards committee and said, hey guys, why are we at least somebody should know, right?
Yeah.
Who the complainer.
In case somebody's being targeted.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the other part of this.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's the most effective way, as you've just suggested to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if that person had to sign in, and it could have been anonymous to me, that would have been fine. But if Illinois Realtors had known one person has filed 3 complaints against one person, that's really like a targeting, and that's harassment in my opinion. And that's where I feel like our industry needs to look at this and say, it's the old school way. I mean, this is the old school way. This is the way it's always been done. And I think it's time to change that and look at who we're trying to be and don't pit agent against agent. It's not a good look.
Well,
It's not.
I'm all there with you. I understand
Yeah.
completely what you're saying. Speaking of new school, so let's reel this back here because we've got some great ideas that we've already been working on implementing. And so I want to start with one that's already bearing a little bit of fruit for us, and that is we've been able to fairly quickly implement these Friday fuel sessions. And so, and then this is, I'm going to leave it to you to talk about rather than me.
Yeah.
The overall, business training aspect of this and about Friday Fuel specifically.
Yeah, so this really is kind of the main thing I want to have by the time my term is over. Friday Fuels are when any agent as part of our association can come in and have a casual conversation about a topic that they know in the industry. It can be lead generation, it can be marketing, it can be sales, it can be how to do a listing presentation, anything. And I want them to come in and talk to a group of maybe 5 to 10 people every Friday or how many Fridays we do it, and give them the opportunity to share with other agents for the purpose of sharing. That's really the goal. The other thing that is super important to me is that the agent who's teaching the Friday Fuel has a platform now, maybe where he or she hasn't had before, to share his or her knowledge. And that's what I'm trying to encourage, to say to these agents, listen, you have something vital and important that you have accomplished in your career. We want to hear from you. So NSBAR will give them marketing for their social media. They'll promote them in the newsletters that goes out. And so it's a way for those agents to also show to their clients that they're teaching and they're giving back, which then elevates their position with their clients as well. So it's a win-win all the way around. It might take a little while to get the traction going because I think a lot of agents are like, well, why am I going to go and listen to so-and-so? It's because you learn something every single time. Every single time you hear somebody.
Well, and I'm so encouraged, and it was one of the things that, this because I said this to you, about how my background, while I'm very familiar with the association world, I spent many years in the MLS world and other business, and from my perspective, I'm like, let's stop acting like we're a charity, like we're asking people to do us a favor, and let's do stuff that actually benefits, so in this case, benefits the teacher as well as the students.
Absolutely. That's really the goal. That's what the association is here for.
Yeah.
The benefits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so are there a couple of other things you want to talk about that are your, big rocks for your...
For me, it's really the collaboration. It's really the connection. It's really the education of learning. That's my full focus. I feel like if I get too far spread out, it's going to get diluted. So if I'm getting that Friday Fuel through, we're going to be in great shape. Of course, the other thing that I will always talk about is actually RPAC, which I did talk about at the installation speech. And RPAC is our, political action committee for realtors. And I've been a major investor for years. And I felt that it's important because, supporting those who are getting our agenda really done through, Congress or the state. And so in my conversation, I said, I asked how many people worked in 2020 or 2021. And everybody in the room really raised their hands. And They worked because our lobbyists were able to continue to get us to work as an essential business. And so,
Exactly right.
that has to go to the RPAC funding that we're doing. Now, we may not know exactly everything that's done with the money. However, we do know that it is effective, especially here in Illinois, to continue to keep us working. And as there's a lot of lawsuits that are coming down the pipe with a lot of NAR, things like that, it's just we need to keep supporting our image, our brand, and our industry. And that is RPAC donations. I'm a firm believer in RPAC donations.
And I think that on a day-to-day basis, because we're all busy with our businesses, we kind of like the idea of knowing that there's somebody out there watching out for us,
sure.
watching out for that. All of a sudden, that real estate transfer tax that they're going to be putting into one of the municipalities that you work or something, and very few, if any of us, have the time to do that. So it's nice to have people that are paid to do this and do a great job at it.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Is there anything I've forgotten to ask you about, or you want to
Not
talk
that
about?
I can think, unless you know of anything you want to ask me. No?
Off the top of my head, we're going to have a ton to talk about. The next time that I'm going to impose upon you to do this kind of messaging is when we get to member recognition in March.
Great.
Because at that point in time, that's typically when we take a few minutes for our president to give an update as to what we're accomplishing, because it's about the halfway mark of your term. Boy, it goes by so fast. And Katie's already asked at least 3 or 4 times to have a second year. So
I was going to say, it feels like I'm in my second year already.
It does feel that way. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, and everybody appreciates it.
And that's, one thing actually to add is just for any of you watching who don't know the staff or the environment here at NSBAR, it's an amazing group of people. I mean, really, truly. And as somebody did ask me, what is my term like? What has it been like? And I said, it's great because I'm a leader. I'm like, let's do this. And when I'm saying that, staff is always supportive and is always ready to move forward and do whatever they need to do. So it's really been an amazing relationship. I think I feel good about it. I hope the staff does too.
I have to tell you, because it's interesting. The perspective that I've gotten from staff is, and people, I don't know. I don't want to paint with a broad brush here. I'll say that staff appreciates the goals, the push, the grabbing for something.
That can be a little too much.
They appreciate it. It's better to rather than just kind of the boring old come to the office routine. So again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank all of you out there for taking a look at our Raising the NSBAR, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Take care.